is that we have to have what we learned when I was studying literature back at the university. We have to have this thing called the willing suspension of disbelief. And this is what you do every time you go into a movie theater. You don't go up to the screen and look at the screen and say, you know, this is really ridiculous. I mean, this is 2 dimensions, and that's really light being projected onto that screen, and I'm not going to let my emotions be affected by a 2-dimensional light being projected up there. This is absurd. You don't do that. You willingly suspend your disbelief and allow yourself to be entertained. And then when the evening or when the movie is over, you pick up your doubt and you go out and make your own decisions about it. That's all I would ask. That's all I'm asking of some of the things that I'll be speaking about here this evening. It's just to willingly suspend your disbelief, like you do when you read a novel or see a movie. And then just allow it in. And try to allow it in with an absence of judgment. Just open yourself up to new possibilities. Particularly possibilities for you. Because that quotation that is attributed to Jesus about even the least among you can do all that I have done. Think about what that truly means. That means that you have a capacity within you to literally manifest whatever it is that you want for yourself through a miraculous process called intention. And I'd like to begin by talking about what that means. You see, when you reach this heightened state of awareness, what happens is that you begin to develop a consciousness that allows you to manage the coincidences of your life. Something that Carl Jung spent his lifetime writing about and talking about. That instead of thinking of things happening to you and the coincidences that sort of just show up in your life that you call miracles, or that you call, wow, wasn't that weird, or wasn't that an interesting set of circumstances for that all to come together like that. You begin to have a different awareness, which is where I place my attention and leave my attention by leaving my ego behind and allowing this higher part of myself to reside there. Where I keep my attention, I can literally bring into the world of the manifest. Or I can go from the wave to the particle, or whatever you want to call that. And that's a very intriguing notion. I wrote a book a few years ago called You'll See It When You Believe It. And I have a chapter in there that I called Synchronicity. Now this is a Jungian term. And it really sort of defines this process of how you can collaborate with fate. Now, most of us have been trained on a set of beliefs that keep us from having any conviction that this is something that is within our control. In fact, many of us have been trained to believe that to even think like this is blasphemous. To think that you have perhaps this kingdom of heaven is within you. And in reading the New Testament, and I always wonder about so much criticism when I remember talking on the Oprah show one time about God, that most people don't have a problem believing in God, they have a problem in knowing that they are God. That God is within them. And she said to me, you realize that there's a lot of people watching all over this country, particularly in certain regions of the country, who are going to find this idea that they are God, pretty absurd. And I said, well, that's just the way it is. And then as I was getting prepared to write this new book, I came across St. Paul's letters to the Philippians. And in Philippians 2, which is a series of letters that St. Paul wrote after being in prison, about words of Jesus, because St. Paul literally wrote the New Testament. And he said these words. And I often want to ask the people who find this so blasphemous what these words mean. He said in Philippians 2, verses 5 and 6, he said, have in you the same mind as Christ Jesus, who, being in the form of God, did not consider it robbery to be equal with God. And so I would ask you to consider that and have that mind. That God is not just something that is outside of you, but that you are extensions of it. And it doesn't really matter what you call it.